In August 1985, which is 20 years ago, a businessman and his recently hired director of research, pharmacologist Bill McAnally, came to my office at Dallas-Fort Worth Medical Center and told me a story attempting to get me involved in doing some research for them. They told me that 8 patients with AIDS spread across the United States had contacted their little company that no longer exists. It was called AvaCare, and they had primarily a line of products for the skin: lotions, potions, creams, and salves using aloe vera, which has been noted for the skin for centuries. They made a product that was a beverage. Think of it much like grapefruit juice, though it'll never compete with grapefruit juice. And these individuals contacted them over 1984-85 and basically said, I was incapacitated, all the problems of AIDS in detail. I drank your juice, and now I'm back at work and in school, thought you'd want to know. Well, when they told me that, I sat across the desk, much like I am with you here, kept a straight face, but internally my response was, get serious.
Yeah.
Drinking aloe juice for AIDS. What kind of a fool do you think I am? And I sent them away, and repeatedly did. They phoned, they came by, and for the next few weeks, and I think finally, just to prove to them they were wrong, I agreed to look at it. They got a consultant in, and we got an FDA approval to do individual physician IND for investigating this. And what happened changed the course of my life and of my physician wife here, Candace, in that not only did these AIDS patients respond using the Walter Reed classification for the severity of AIDS by Redfield, published in the New England Journal of Medicine, but you and I wouldn't be talking if that was the only thing that happened. These were formerly healthy, young homosexual males. They developed, when their CD4 helper lymphocytes were being destroyed by the HIV-1 virus, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, a whole host of infections that we're in contact with on a regular basis that their immune systems can't handle. They developed lymphomas, leukemias, and horrible, ugly Kappa-Shea sarcomas, a malignant blood vessel of tumors over their skin.
Right.
When they took the aloe vera juice from the leaf, which was eventually extracted to a powder so it'd be more concentrated, lo and behold, not only did their CD4 helper lymphocytes go up and their viral loads go down, but these complications, the infections, the malignancies, the autoimmune diseases, the allergies, faded away too. And one egg and one sperm to operate that human body, to run defense, repair, healing, regeneration, and to keep things in balance. Every cell has that instructions in it. What we see here is about what you can see at a 500 light microscopy, and it looks like in the cytoplasm there's nothing there. But with a 100,000 plus electron microscopy and the proper stains, in this area that looks like there's nothing, there's actually assembly line. And this assembly line is run by the instructions that come from the genes. Messenger RNA is produced, and it's read from one end to the other, just like a player piano roll to start the symphony of life. And in the first assembly line step, amino acids supplied in our diet are hooked together in a certain order that, depending on the gene, it might be skin cell, hair cell, white cell, liver cell, hormone, interferon. And then it goes to the second step here, from the ribosome to the endoplasmic reticulum. And I haven't told you, but eventually, from the aloe vera leaf gel, analytical chemists separated a fraction that in tissue culture and in animals we could show had antiviral, anti-tumor, and healing promoting properties. Once we found that fraction, then other analytical chemists began to study it and found out It was chains of mannose sugars. The mannose sugar was doing incredible things repeatedly, but we didn't know why mannose was so important until 1985, a review article, which this illustration is taken from, by Kornfeld and Kornfeld, husband-wife biochemistry team, explains that in the second step here, and this is the biochemistry here, 9 molecules in 3 chains of mannose sugars are added to chains of amino acids or peptides at this step. When I found this in the night at the library and realized what was there about the third time I read it, because this was 20 miles of bad biochemistry road, I couldn't sleep for 2 days and nights, because that right there, that step, is why human beings have been using aloe vera for over 5,000 years, that it can be documented. And I was a part of the team that found this out. This was also why for several years we'd been having people say, you added this, look what happened. It's a miracle. Well, I can tell you it is no miracle. We haven't run the very expensive assays to answer that question. But what we keep seeing, and I don't have it on here, that quantitative assays have been done for interleukins and interferons and growth factors. And Dr. David Busby, geneticist at Texas A&M University School of Veterinary Medicine, and he's an expert in the area of gene array analysis. And he says when they put the chips on there and add this to the cells, the glyconutrients, that the genes that are defensive, desirable to be expressed, lead to good health, are upregulated and expressed. Those that are negative, that promote tumors or malignancy or uncontrolled growth and other problems, are suppressed. And it appears to be that in our genes, when you give all the things that are required for the proper synthesis of bioactive molecules, and of course the neuramines and the receptors are in this, that the right thing is done. The intelligence is in the engineering and design. Now, my wife's a specialist in addiction medicine, and I didn't know that in giving methadone, you've got those that they call them low metabolizers, and there's a low dose will take away the mania for drugs. Then they got a bigger group that's in the middle, and then they got a group that are high dose or high responders, high metabolizers. I was contacted by a well-experienced military addiction specialist who was taking care of the nephew of one of our federal senators. And he happened to be a high metabolizer of methadone, added these products to his diet, and his requirement for the methadone that kept him from having the mania was coming down, and wanted to know why. And I says, apparently what is needed is being given. I have my own theories about addiction, which is different from others, and that number one is that we're not made and constructed as exquisitely as I told you here, and throw in there, oh, let's have some receptors for some illegal drugs and breakdown products of alcohol. It doesn't make sense to me when there is so much purposeful, logical design here. What if the sites and the receptors are for missing nutrients that will cross-react with the breakdown products of alcohol and drugs? They hit the receptor, but they do not fulfill the requirements in metabolism and biochemistry. So the cell makes more receptors trying to get what it needs. When you give what is missing, the expression of the receptors comes down, and in fact they're mania, because that's what it was made for. These type of substances, and there are thousands of them, you just know about a few in the tomato, because it happens over and over again that when you give what the receptors and what the cells need, then they preferentially, there's a biochemical process for this, bind to what it was meant for. And you don't have the mania because the cell quits making the extra receptors trying to get what it's got what it wanted and prefers it. Yes, actually, after the AIDS patients had shrinkage of their lymphomas and their leukemias, and then we went and treated cats with leukemia and their leukemic picture went away, I said, well, let's try this in humans. And so to be careful, we only took about 50 patients that were on hospice, been sent home, everything had failed. And in dealing with these patients, so many of them were just panicked. Everybody's giving up on me. I'm going to die. And in my mind, it was like on the edge of the earth, and there's darkness out there, the unknown. They're hanging on, panicked. And they would start taking these products. In about 2 weeks, they would start coming in, sitting down with it. Tell me how fortunate they were to know that they're going to die because my father, my uncle, or some friend dropped dead, and all the problems they left for their wife, their family, their estate. And they were able to get all their affairs in order. And I remember one that was a doctor that had always promised his son, we're going to go fishing and bear hunting, and all through life had never had time. Well, he took time to do that now. It was, and he was so happy.
Yeah, so that was amazing relief.
Yeah, another hadn't spoken to his sister over some issue in 10 years. He goes to her and resolves that. And just a lot of these type of things happened that people started celebrating and coping with. Fact is, I had some doubts about all this until I got a fax back in about 95, 96 from a psychiatrist in California. And he said that he had 4 patients he'd been working with 2 years with counseling as well as psychotropic drugs. They'd been giving them psychotropic drugs in different mixtures and amounts, and he had come to the point that he felt like he was going to have to hospitalize all 4 of them to protect them from destroying themselves. He heard at church about our products, felt like he had nothing to lose, and that's why he was sent. He says, in 2 weeks, all 4 patients made more progress than they'd made in the first 2 years. He says, I've tried to analyze what happened. He says they haven't made any major decisions in their life, which before were intolerable and they couldn't handle. And only thing that he could put his finger on is now they could cope with it. They were bigger than their problems. That's a pretty good gift to give to something that's nutritional, that apparently supports the biochemistry of the brain, whether it's receptors, neuroreceptors, or all of them. That's a pretty good gift to give, that the side effects is your fingernails grow faster and stronger. Dandruff, some people say, goes away. Our side effects are comical as other problems they've had for years slowly fade away. One of the most dramatic responses in people probably over 70 years of age, I wish I had on tape. And at the time it was going on, I was amazed. Sal Meary from here in Texas, wife came up to give a testimony and brought him up with her and described how her husband had been mute for 2 years. She had to bathe him, dress him. They had diagnosed him as Alzheimer's. She described how she had to tell him to open his mouth, put food in it, tell him to chew some more, tell him to swallow, drink this, now take another bite, that this had gone on. And she heard about these products, and she started giving them to him and said now he could bathe, dress himself, he could eat. All this time he had been standing there just like a wax figure with no emotion, and was telling this story and had virtually everybody in the audience in tears with her agony over the living dead of her loved one she'd been married to over 40 years. And when she got through with it and all, it was sort of a celebration attitude, but he just stood there and she took the mic and said, "Sam, would you like to say anything?" And he said, "Yeah, right. I'm getting better." About 8 months went by and I was asked to lecture again. And this gentleman gets up and I recognize him as Sam. And he slowly walks up, puts out his hand, and then in a voice just about like this, he tells the same story his wife told. And then he got to the end and he said, "I just keep getting better." Of course, his wife was sitting down there with tears running down her eyes. About 6 or 8 more months go by, and I'm asked to give the program. And a guy jumps up. I don't even recognize him. He comes up, takes the microphone out of my hand, and he says who his name is, and he says, "You people here tonight need to realize what you've got and what you can do to help people. You've got a responsibility to go out there and share this story. Let me tell you my story." And it was Sam.
Wow.
Like a Baptist evangelist.
Yeah.
Well, I was there. Oh, if we could have just had this on tape, because I saw it myself and it's hard to believe. Now, I've heard somewhere in my files, I've got a folder with about 15 interviews that over a 2-week period I kept hearing of people with Alzheimer's that had incredible stories. I don't think none just like I saw Sam, but husbands, wives relating the stories of returning from the living dead, I call it.
Let me tell you that all statements about glyconutrients have not been evaluated by the FDA, or there are no claims intended to be inferred that glyconutrients diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.